I'm Sherilyn Skolnicki, and this is Brilliant Balance, the show for working women who are ready to shine. Each week, I bring you ideas, inspiration, and insight on balance, business, and getting it all done gracefully. You ready? Let's be brilliant. This is episode 214 of the Brilliant Balance podcast. And today we're learning to host a brain huddle with my special guest, Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor. Y'all, I could not be more excited about sharing this episode with you. Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor is someone that you may have first heard about when her absolute blockbuster TED Talk went out into the world, followed by her best-selling book called My Stroke of Insight, A Brain Scientist's Personal Journey. This collection of work, first her TED Talk, which was in 2008, she spoke about her experience having a stroke as a Harvard-trained neuroanatomist. So if you remember this talk, she was able to really recall and experience in real time this stroke through the lens of someone who really understands the infrastructure of our brain and the functionality of our brain. And that talk launched her, onto the public stage in a really big way. Within 6 weeks of doing that talk, she was chosen as one of Time Magazine's 100 most influential people in the world. She was the very first guest on Oprah's Soul Series webcast. The book that she published on the same subject became a New York Times bestseller. It stayed on that list for 63 weeks. And she is just an exceptional human being. Dr. Jill is so passionate about educating the public about what she thinks of as the beauty of our human brain. And she is committed to helping people find their way back from neurological trauma like she experienced, but also eager to help literally everyone better understand their brain so they can live their very best life. And you'll hear her say in this episode of the show or in our interview, that while she's grateful that the TED Talk was so well received and that the book was so widely read, she actually considers both of them to be a bit of a disappointment. And that might surprise you as you listen, to that introduction. So I really want you to listen in her words to how her perceived failure of that work led to the publication of her latest book, which is an exceptional piece of work. It is a book called Whole Brain Living, and it's the focus of my interview with her in this episode. I bought this book this summer, and shortly after reading it, I interviewed Martha Beck for this show, who had just interviewed Dr. Jill for her show. So there's this nice little connection happening, and I was just in awe at the time of how incredibly simple and yet incredibly insightful the framework that she puts forth in Whole Brain Living is to help us more calmly move through our day, really making use of our whole brain as we navigate situation by situation through our day. And she teaches this concept of a brain huddle that we get into in some degree of detail in this episode. I can't wait for you to hear it. She is just a bright light as a human being. You will hear the just exuberance and gratitude in her voice as she has this interview, I'm sure how she lives every other moment of her day, which is just happy to be here and so generously sharing what she's learned with all of us. So without any further buildup, let me give you Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor. Well, Dr. Jill, I just could not be more excited to have you with us on the Brilliant Balance Show. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. So I think we all first fell in love with you back when you delivered your now famous TED Talk, My Stroke of Insight. And I just wonder from your perspective, what do you think resonated so much about that talk? Were you surprised by that?
I knew that the talk was either going to work really well or it wasn't going to work at all. And when I constructed that, it was choreographed in the event that now I have language for it. In the event that my left brain looks out and sees famous people and goes, oh my God, and I lose place, right? Because I don't script. I'm an ad-libber. So, but that was scripted. And so I had to put movement patterns in. So regardless of what the brain chatter was, I could deliver this 18 minutes. And I think that for many, it was in the last few minutes, I chose not to teach. I chose to hold the space of us as a collective whole. And people went on that morning of the stroke experience with me, and they opened and they opened and they opened. And then instead of me going, bam, character one, teach, I held the space and they held the space for me. And we became one human family. And it is so beautiful when we have those moments in our lives where we truly feel connected to another human being. I think that was the impact, the power of that presentation.
Oh, I think that's beautiful. And we felt that, but maybe didn't have words for what was happening. And maybe we'll talk a little bit about that today, how that experience is one that's maybe more felt than articulated.
Yeah.
Interesting. So in the years after that, right, you talked about this talk a million times, and yet I've read that you came to view the talk and the book that followed it as a failure, which was shocking to me. Tell us why.
Right. Yeah. Most people don't understand that. Well, what I wanted to do, my purpose for that, holding the space, was that we are a collective whole. We are one human family. And I wanted our level of reverence for one another to increase. And what happened was people's level of reverence for me increased, but not for their family and their bosses and their, people. And so that was the miss for me. That didn't do it. And that's why truly whole brain living for me is the answer to me of the wonder of what each one of us is as a whole brain, our capacity. And when we truly look at ourselves as whole brains and those sitting across from us as whole brain, I know there's 4 of me in here and there's 4 of you in there. Yeah. And if we get along, it's because we're matching up. And if we're not getting along, it's because we're having a mismatch. And what choices do we then have when we mismatch? And can we take responsibility for that and actually get into a better jive with one another on purpose and by choice? And I truly believe that we can, and we have that ability.
It's fascinating. And I read every word of this book a number of times. I mean, this book has become a bit of a reference in our household. And so I can't wait to dig into it. But that notion of the 4 U's inside of your brain communing with the 4 U's in everyone else is interesting. And I don't know that I got that just until you said it in that way, that there's a miss maybe between one character in me and one in you if we're not feeling that vibe. Fascinating. Right. So this was your second attempt to get your message across.
It took 13 years for me to figure it out. But yeah, this is it for me.
This is the how-to.
This is the how-to, and it is so clean and so neuroanatomically correct. It doesn't threaten people who are more left-brained and they can't go into the right brain, woo, 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 right? Or the right brain is saying, well, we're all connected and loving and you're this. It gets rid of that. And I become all 4. And to know that I have the power to choose moment by moment who and how I want to be means that I have the power to live the life I want. And that's freedom. And who doesn't want personal freedom?
Well, I certainly do. I mean, there's so much agency in that idea. And I want to share with the listeners what these 4 identities or 4 characters are inside each of our brains. And you do such a clean job of describing sort of our left thinking and left emotional brain, and then right thinking and right emotional. Can you just unpack that model a bit for the listeners?
Yes. So the primary difference is, well, evolution in the mammalian nervous system or in our kind of nervous system happens with the addition of new tissue on top of old tissue. And then you have a new species. And then over eons of time, the kinks get worked out between the new tissue and the older tissue. It becomes streamlined. And then you have a mature, evolved creature. And then new tissue gets added on top because nature's that way. It always wants something new and more. So we as human beings have these two emotional systems. I'll use my little model.
Here's our brain.
We have the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere. And each hemisphere has an amygdala, a hippocampus, and then the anterior cingulate gyrus in here, which are the cells of our emotional system. So we have emotional tissue in both hemispheres. And then the difference between a typical mammal and the human is the addition of the neocortex, the new cerebral cortex. So that's going to be our higher executive function. So we are essentially working the kinks out between our new thinking tissue with our emotional tissue, and then the thinking tissue with the thinking tissue in the two hemispheres, because those are both new. So that is the natural biological evolution at a neuroanatomical level. But what that means is that I have emotion and I have thinking in each hemisphere. So what are the differences between the two hemispheres? The biggest difference is that the right hemisphere is right here, right now. It's in the present moment. Information streaming in through our sensory system, exploding into this enormous collage of this present moment. And it's not about me, the individual. I have to have the cells in my left brain to have me, the individual. So the right hemisphere is I don't exist as me, Jill Bolte Taylor. I exist as a part of a human family. We are one human family. We are our humanity in relationship to this planet, and we can bring our minds to the present moment. Then the left hemisphere comes online and it says, okay, well, that's nice, but, and it feels great in the present moment, but, I am an individual. In order to get anything done, I have to be me. So there's actually a group of cells back here in the left hemisphere that define the boundaries of where I begin and where I end. And so now I'm a me. I'm separate from you. I'm not just the energy of the universe in the right brain. I'm a me, an individual. And then I have language. And a part of language says, I am Jill Bolte Taylor. I live here. This is my phone number. These are the clothes I wear. This is what I like to do. Me, everything's about me. Yeah. So this then becomes a filter about me, the individual. So the left brain will have emotion about me, the individual, in relationship to the external world. And it will have thinking, my rational brain, relating me, the individual, to my external world. So as I go then to the four characters, the four characters are going to be left brain thinking will be character number 1, and left emotion will be character 2. Well, what do we know about those right off the bat? They're both about me. So the focus becomes me thinking character 1 in relationship to the external world, my rational brain. I like to organize everything so I can control it. I like to control people, places, and things. I'm the boss. I determine what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad. I am the most important.
Yeah.
It's all about me. And then and I have a past and I have a future, right? So then I move to character 2. Character 2 is my emotions about how do I feel about me in relationship to the external world. Well, let's say you and I were going to have a picnic, right? And it was like me, and probably you, yours. We were all excited about the picnic, but we wanted it to be sunny, right? And then it turns out it was raining, right? And so now we're not very happy, right? My little character 2 is unhappy because my preconceived expectation of what I wanted the weather to be didn't happen. And so now I'm unhappy and I'm mad and I'm sad and I'm pouty and I don't get to see my pal, but you're over there. You're in your character 3, right brain emotion, and you're going, it doesn't matter. Weather doesn't matter, Jill. We're here, right now. Let's play together. We can go build a tent in the woods and cover it up, and then we can have picnic in there, right? Or whatever. So the right hemisphere emotion is going to be right here, right now, present moment experience. It's not necessarily me, the individual. It's about the experience of the present moment. What does it feel like when my clothes are on my body? What does it feel like, the temperature of the air? What does it feel like when we dive into the water and we feel the pressure of the water against our body, or what's the temperature, and just the whole experience? And it's like, oh yeah, let's go do this. And so we want to go be adrenaline junkies, because it's like, wow, who doesn't want to do that, right? And but it's right here, right now. And so it's playful, and it's curious, and it's interested, because the left brain is over here saying, well, that's right, that's wrong, that's good, that's bad. But the right brain's going, whoa, let's play, let's be in the present, let's create something new, let's innovate, let's be together, let's go explore, let's whatever. So that's character 3. And then character 4 is the right thinking tissue. And the right thinking tissue is not active. It is simply in awe that we exist as a living being at all. Oh my gosh. I am this collection of 50 trillion beautiful molecular geniuses. Some of them can speak, some of them can see, some of them can think, some of them can feel pain or emotion or joy. I have legs that allow me to move the mass of this living thing into the world. I have fingers and dexterity so I can manipulate space. And oh my gosh, I'm alive. I'm alive. It's amazing. And so that's that blissful place that we meditate to get to, we pray to get to, we repeat a mantra to get to that experience of the blissful euphoria of, oh my God, I'm alive.
Yes. I mean, I just could listen to you do that all day. That whole explanation. I'm sure everyone listening is going, can I get whatever she's having? It's this, and it's character 4, right? It's like, that is the thing that brings that. Yeah.
It's the superpower of all of us. It's the, wow, I'm full force, full alive.
Right.
And
like unbridled.
And I have this left brain that comes in and says, well, we have to minimize that because that's a bit much. So we need to constrict ourselves and define what's right and wrong and good and bad. And did you really put on that shirt for a podcast? I mean, so it's all that judgment and so that let's control, but we have to have that because otherwise I wouldn't be punctual and get here on time.
Yes.
Right. So life becomes this magic combination of all 4 of these characters, and being able to identify the different parts in myself at any moment, be able to identify the different parts in others, and then figure out, okay, are we a miss? Are we a match? And if not, what do you need? How can I work with you in order to show up in a way that we have a really healthy relationship?
Yes. So I have a question about characters 3 and 4 in the right brain. Are they always positive?
No. Absolutely
so there can
not.
be a negative or a sadness to 3 and 4.
I'm going to say character 4 is always filled with gratitude. I mean, that's just the awe that I exist at all. And it's big as the universe, and the feeling that I feel is love. Okay. But character 4 is not focused, doesn't have the impetus for action. It simply is. Okay, so character 4, yes, it's this blissful euphoria place we all kind of want to just allow ourselves to go and breathe and rest and feel like we're in the womb of, Mother Cosmos, right? Who doesn't want to feel that, right?
Right.
So we are that. So that's character 4. Character 3 has the impetus for excitement in the present moment. Now, I could come up with a really bad idea. And I could say, okay, so, Cheryl Ann, she's got a pool in her backyard. I don't know if you do or not. She's got a pool in the backyard. And it's like, and then she's got this fence. Let's go sneak in there in the middle of the night and let's fill it with like red dye. right? So she gets up in the morning, and then we can like lay in there like we've been wounded, like there's a couple of dead bodies in there, right? Okay, because that's the kind of thing that character 3 wants to do. It wants to make an impact, right? And so we go and we do that. Well, first of all, it's destructive to your pool system. We scare the crap out of you. Your security alarm goes off. The police come. We end up in jail, right? Because we chose in our character 3 to do something on the impulse that was really stupid and against the structure of the law, which is established by that left brain, right, wrong, good, bad. So it's not always positive. We can do, and it's still instantaneous emotion. So let's say somebody says something to me, and for some reason that triggers something in my immediate, and I want to punch you. Right. And so I act out in the punch you. Well, that's not good either. Right. So my anger explodes. So the right hemisphere, the character 3 can have this explosive bad ideas and powerful emotions that I engage then with my body in negative ways. So no, it's not always positive, but it's passionate.
Yes. Passionate is a great word for your description of that, and present moment focused. It's sort of like up for a good time, maybe not always thinking around the corner of what could happen next, but
I mean, isn't this pretty much the teenage brain? And that's a whole nother story, right? But it's like, well, what were you thinking? Well, clearly I wasn't.
Right, I wasn't.
Couldn't you have made a better choice? Well, no, I didn't have any other choices in my head. That sounded like a great idea, and I did it.
Yes. And there probably are correlations to parts of our life cycle where one or more of these characters is sort of at the forefront. Do we keep that? Do most of us have one character that's overdeveloped?
Oh, well, I think that most of us have a default. You know, if you're the A-type personality that's busy, goes to the office, does the to-do list, always organizing everything, controlling everything for the kids, for the spouse, for the job, for the PTA.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of character 1 in there, right?
That's right.
And if you're just busy doing character 1, then what else are you going to do? You're going to say, okay, well, I'm going to work yoga into my busy schedule or my meditation, right? And I'm going to use my character 1 to kind of try to get into my character 4, but I never feel like I really get there because I'm still running the to-do list while I'm doing my things. And it's like, I can't concentrate on that. That's like, why am I doing that? And I'm going to go back to being a character 1. Right. And there are those of us who are worrywarts, right? Some of us, it's just like all about the fear, all about the anxiety, all about the, oh, don't do that. That's dangerous. You don't want to do that. Or no, don't quit your job because this is a sure thing. And oh no, don't travel and do this or that or whatever. It's always that negative character 2. Yes. And then there's that character 3. And it's like, what do their drawers look like, right? Yes. Probably a whole lot of chaos, but because they think out of the box, they're not living in the box, right? Their box is expansive and open. So these are the people you want to have come up with new ideas. They're creative, they're innovative, they're possibility. They're generally like community. They like to do it with others because, if I'm going to go explore the woods, it's like, well, isn't that more fun if I get to share it with you, right? Let's go do that. And then character 4, we know these people. These people are the anchors of our hearts. We know who to call when we're sad.
Yeah.
We know who to call when we're sad. If we want to commiserate, misery loves miserable company. Go to the 2s. If we need somebody to help fix a problem, we call the character 1 and they say, what do you need? And I say, I need A, B, or C. And they say, we got it. You got it. Or, it's like, I could use some ice cream. Can we go play? Can we go for a walk in the woods together and just be together and spend some time and be calm? And that's going to be the 3. And then the character 4 is just going to come in and wrap us up in a big old blanket of love. And it's like, thank you. I just needed to breathe.
Do you ever find yourself saying, I just need a minute to breathe? While the whole idea of meditation can sound totally intimidating, I've found that stepping away from the chaos of life, even just for a few minutes, is incredibly restorative. So if you're short on time, but could use a few moments of peace right about now, listen to my 5-minute meditation for working moms. It'll help you clear your head and come back to your day feeling centered and refreshed. head over to brilliant-balance.com/breathe. Press play and settle in for a few mini moments of peace right now. There's the phrase I always think about when you talk about character 4 is being able to hold space, and you referenced it in your talk. It's that I can create this space to just be beside you. That I don't have to fix, I don't have to plan, I don't have to make you feel happier if you're sad. There's just this sense of like presence, right? That's almost, it's a deeply spiritual.
And acceptance. Simply be in the presence of and gratitude that we can be together.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. So one of the things that you teach through the book is this concept of a brain huddle. So now that you've introduced us to the 4 characters, I'm sure everyone's wondering like, okay, so there's got to be a way to tap and leverage these. I would say anyone who knows me would tell you character 1 is dominant. She just never lets anybody else have a turn, right? I just live there. So my reading of this book has really challenged me to say, okay, how can I call in some of these? They have to be in there, right? How can I call them in? And interestingly, in my family, we found that I have 3 children and a husband. We kind of spread across these characters within our family. So we've had some interesting conversations about how if 4 of us have a conversation, we're sort of naturally going to bring 4 characters to the mix. But when we want to do it within ourselves to have sort of that wise mind, what's the strategy?
So the strategy is, I know I have all these 4 characters, and I encourage people to really get to know the characters. So there's a whole chapter on character 1. These are the skill sets of the character 1. This is where it's located in the brain. These are what it's good at. And I actually encourage you then to become familiar with that part of yourself. Where does your character 1 show up at? Mine shows up in the office. She doesn't show up in the art space unless we're cleaning it up, right? So she shows up in the office. She's on the phone. She holds my body a certain way. She puts on my glasses. She usually, if I'm not going to have a headset on, puts earrings in. She puts on a brain shirt because I'm talking to a human being. She holds my body a certain way. She speaks with a certain inflection of my voice. That's a character. Get to know that character. Who of my friends and family and people I work with, who like this part of me, who actually want to interact with this character, who flee from this character. So, I use the example of like, I'm in the office, I'm working, I'm running my to-do list. I've got 8 things going at the same time. You're going to be the exact same way, right?
Yes.
And then the phone call rings, right? And a pal calls you up. Oh, you're busy, right? And it's like, hi, what can I do for you? Now, that's a very different hello from my character 1 than my character 3, who's just going to move right into, tell me everything. What did you do today? What was the best part of your day? Blah, 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 blah. I'm ready to chat, So really getting to know these characters, how much time do you spend in these characters? And then I encourage people to identify these characters. Give your characters a name because it's an identity. I call my character 1 Helen. Hell on wheels, she gets it done, right? All of my friends know Helen. They can hear it in the voice. Oh, hi, Helen. Would you call us back later this evening? Sure. And what does Helen do? She puts it on a post note or on the to-do list because that's the way Helen organizes information. So I encourage first people to recognize, really get to know when are you already embodying each of these characters. And as you said, you might be 80% character 1, right? But there's probably friends who bring out your character 3 or certain things that you do when you're being your character 4. So you get to know them. And then I do what I call a brain huddle. Now, brain huddle is BRAIN. It's an acronym. And any of the 4 characters may choose to call the brain huddle. So B stands for breath. Breath, focus on your breath. Why breath? Well, we all focus on breath in the present moment. If you're going to know all 4 of your characters and you're going to make a big decision and you really want to know what's right for your next move, in the present moment, everybody, it's like huddle. And so they all come to the huddle. The first thing we do when we're born and the last thing we do before we die is breathe. So I visualize breath as this train on a track, and we can bring our mind to the present moment and change the frequency of our breath or the amplitude of our breath. We can hold our breath. We're the only creature that we can say, hold your breath, and we can hold your breath. I think that's fascinating.
That's so cool.
We can't teach anybody else to hold their breath. So bring your mind to the present moment. B, R, recognize which of the 4 characters were you in who called the brain huddle. Okay, I'm calling a brain huddle as Helen. It's like, everybody online, where are we? What's going on? If I'm unhappy, I may call a brain huddle because I'm unhappy. I'm feeling anxiety. I need help. I need to get out of my anxiety, right? Self-salvage here.
Yes.
Character 3, Pigpen, might say, yeah, let's have a huddle because how's everybody? It's like, hi, Pigpen just wants to catch up. Get together and let's catch up. Or character 4 might say, wow, we are alive. We are, why don't we all have a huddle and so I can express some gratitude for each one of us, right? And it's like, okay, recognize who called the huddle. A, appreciate the fact that no matter who called the huddle, we've got 4 of them. Mm-hmm. And we're all right there ready to pull in. I stands for inquire. Inquire which of us in this moment, under these circumstances, inquire which of us should we collectively choose to come out next. Who do we want to jump into? Let's say I have an important phone call. Well, maybe I want to make that phone call as a character 4, all loving. Or maybe Helen needs to come online and she needs to run through the agenda. Or I certainly probably don't want to be in character 2 to make that phone call. So we need to protect her and love her and say, okay, you're going to be quiet for a little while. But I inquire which of the 4 characters do I want to be in the next moment? And then N stands for navigate. Navigate moment by moment by moment, because that's what life is. Life is this collection of moments. And every moment I can call a huddle and say, well, what outcome do I ultimately want? And I will choose which character I want to be based on what I truly want as a collective whole, my outcome to be.
This is such a mind-blowing concept. And I'm telling you, if you're listening, you have to read this book to get it fully. But Dr. Jill is doing a beautiful job of giving us the summary. The idea of choosing who you want to be in the next moment, which you needs to navigate that moment, right, with the most grace, the most excellent, is so revolutionary that it's available to you. So it's taking away my ability to say, well, that's just how I am. Right? Because we are actually able to be all of these. Yes.
Right. We are all of these.
Yes. So that power to choose is just transformative.
Right.
So does character 2 resist the huddle the most?
Well, I think that character 1 isn't really any more enthusiastic about it than character 2. Because they have to put down their power. I have to put down me and include that other hemisphere over there, which I might view as a waste of time. And this is where it gets really important. What is the relationship between the characters inside of your brain? And if your character 1 does not respect or value your right brain characters 3 and 4, then it's never going to put its sword down and breathe deeply and allow us to just relax.
Okay, we got to pause on that for a second, because I think everyone listening is probably saying, oh my gosh, that's so relatable. I mean, I think my audience is going to skew characters 1 and 2. It's my hunch. And that notion of not being able to relax is something I hear all the time, or I just can't because there's so much to be done. I just can't because I'm worried.
Right.
You can hear it in that languaging, right? I can't relax or have a date night or play or whatever.
Right.
Character 1 saying there's so much to be done. Character 2 is worrying. And so I think it gives us this framework to understand that all 4 parts matter and they need their time. Yeah.
So look at it this way. You're absolutely right. So look at it this way. Machines, which we're so familiar with now our computers, you turn them on and they run. And they're constant 24/7. And we can just jump into them at any time and just keep going. And it's always going. And the more we jump into it, the more behind we get because the more comes at us, right? And so now my list gets even bigger and more and more and more. So I don't have any time, but I am a biological creature. And a biological creature functions best on the push and the pause. The pause is where we get our power. We refuel the power. So we are creatures that are awake, and then we shut down and we go to sleep. We have the push of awake and we have the pause of sleep. And we all know that if we're sleep deprived for virtually no time at all, we become literally insane.
Yes.
Right? We become psychotic. Okay. But what's that tell us? That tells us that we are a biological creature that needs to push and pause. And it's in the right brain pause where I take myself away from all the details, do, because I'm going so fast and I'm doing so much and I'm so busy that all I see is what is in front of me. But that, when I pause, I think about that task and it's like, I could actually do this instead.
Yes.
And if I did that instead, then I wouldn't have to do these things because those would shift over here.
Yes.
And I get to look at the big picture of my life and I get to breathe more deeply and I become more effective.
Totally.
More
I totally see that. Yes.
More interesting, more innovative, and ultimately more effective. I'm not just running on the treadmill and then I'm dead. No, I'm running on the treadmill to exercise those juices, and then I go do something else. We have these two hemispheres, these two emotional and these two thinking groups of cells to use. So if we're not using them, we're functioning at a deficit.
Yes. And that I know there's going to be a question about respect. How do we get, because you said if the left brain is not respecting the right brain, it's just never going to want to give up that control. This sounds to me like how you invite that respect is it's the whole, it's the power of the whole versus just a piece. But can you talk a little bit more about that? How can we build that respect for the underutilized parts?
Well, I think that part of it is recognizing that first of all, that left brain wants to be efficient. That character one, it's organization. It's I need to be my most effective human being. Oh, I heard this brain scientist say, well, that means I actually have to let in the consciousness of the characters 3 and 4. And we all know that character 1 and 2 of the left brain is our stress circuitry. Yes. So if I'm running my stress circuitry and I'm running my worry circuitry, I'm actually inviting dis-ease and lack of neuroregulation into my ongoing lifestyle with my anxiety and with my fear, which only makes my body sick. Yeah. Okay, well, if my left brain's going to think it's the superior part of my being, then it might want to consider, okay, well, it serves a purpose. So maybe I should participate in that and put that on the schedule because play is important. Okay, well, who do I like to play with? Oh, I have a new grandbaby. Oh, and I get to just like go love on that little one and feel like that and have that and just admire that. And then I go into the character 4 of, oh my God, the all of life because wow, I mean, look at this thing. And it's like how fast it learned from last week or whatever. Yes. Who reinforces those parts of myself. But the left brain's on the hustle. That's all it wants to do. It's hustling time. It's hustling people. It's manipulating everything that it possibly can. It's never enough because it's achieved and now it's got to achieve and now it's got to achieve. So there's no end. And so that part of the brain needs to recognize, I'm a spiral. I'm not just a staircase. I'm a spiral. And if I allow myself to do that, that's where I get my health and my energy in my new possibilities to infuse my left brain to do better, to perform better. And then I come back around again and I pause and I look at it from the bigger picture. And so I become whole.
It's so good. It's so good. This concept of a spiral as the visual is so telling. I love that. I'm going to sit with that one for a while.
Yeah. It's so like good. The modiolus, you take the infinity, but you make it flat. And then you take that and you twist that modiolus. And it's just, you've got to go, you're 100% in one and in the other in the way that they're one thing. But then you can twist them back and they become the big circle. They're one thing, but they're these different pieces of us fueling and doing. And they have different value structures. The value structure of the right here, right now, right brain is of us as a collective whole. This is going to be the piece of me that actually cares about climate change, whether my left brain can wrap itself around the idea of, is it real or not? It doesn't matter. What if it is? What can I do a little bit differently in my left brain strategic planning to serve the whole of us, not just the me? A true negotiation and a true agreement. It's got to be good for me. It's got to be good for you. And it's got to be good for the community within which we are, or that was a selfish thing for me to do.
Yes. And that's full circle back to your purpose in writing this book, which was the connection. That if we're only thinking about you and we're in awe of you, we're not in awe of the collective, or seeking to connect with one another, we're missing the point.
Right.
And so the characters give us pathways to find that connection. And I want to maybe have this be my last formal question, but you said, if we're not feeling that vibe with someone in our life, if we're not connecting, it's likely that there's, maybe it's through a different character that we could connect with them. Can you say a little bit more about that?
I'll give you a perfect example. So I have a friend, she's a teacher, she's a strong character one. She organizes her classroom, half of them are on Zoom, half of them are here. She's doing organizing home. She's a busy character one. And her husband is now working at home, but he's a primary character 3. And they both love tennis. This is where they meet on the court and they do well. So let's say the plan for the evening is we're going to go play some tennis. And so, he's done with his day and he's waiting at home and he's in his 3 and he's ready to go play. And so she comes home and she says, honey, I can't go play right now. And he's going in his 3. Well, you said. So she now moves into his 2. And she's then going, well, look, don't be selfish. If I have 30 minutes and you helped me, then we could go do play. And so now she gets in and now they're in their 2 tit for tat. No resolution will ever happen in a 2 for 2. So what could have been a really lovely evening. So how could we play that differently? She comes in, she calls him up and she says, honey, I know I promised you we could play tennis tonight and we can. And I'm excited about that, but I've got this chore I need. And if you help me, if you jump into your character 1 and you give me 30 minutes of character 1, then I can be character 3 the rest of the night with you. And he's thinking, oh, character 3, all she needs is a character 1 for 30 minutes. I can do that. And then we can go play. Okay. This is the constant dynamic of any interaction between 2 people. We're jiving or we're not jiving. And if we're not jiving, we usually end up in the 2 against 2, no resolution.
The emotions and so just as people are catching up with the numbers, the 2 and the 2 would be 2 emotional interactions. I'm in my emotions.
Negative, hostile.
Yes.
I'm not happy.
Yes.
I'm not happy with you.
Right. That's so problem. Beautiful. And I bet those 1-3 dynamics happen frequently where, there's this present moment, playfulness, spontaneity. I would say a lot of us see that in our children. And then we're in this character 1, but there's things to do. So connecting with them, this may be the same pathway.
Same kind of thing. I mean, let's say your child comes home from school and you say to them, honey, let's say you can have a whole hour of character 3, and then I need you to pop into your character 1 for 15 minutes, clean up your room, and then come see you have dinner on the table, right?
Yes.
And so the child then goes into the room and they play for an hour, and then you holler, okay, character 1 time, and they're going, okay, character 1 time. And then they go do their character 1, and you say, did you clean your room? And I'm feeling so proud because yes, I did that as my character 1. And then you're happy and I get rewarded. Yes. Okay, so let's say then something else happens instead. I go and I play and I'm in my character 3 and you say, okay, character 1, 15 minutes. And so I start putting things away and then I get distracted by something shiny, right? And I go right back into my character 3 and I forget about, cleaning up my room. And so then you come into my room and you're looking around and you're going, wait a minute. The deal was, and all of a sudden the kid goes into their 2 fear, right? Because mom's not happy anymore, because now mom's in her 2, because I didn't clean up my room because I got distracted by my 3. Yep. And you tell that to a child and then you say, did you realize that if you had agreed that you have the power to keep your own mother out of her character 2, you had the power to keep your mother in her character 1 happy, or to move your mother into the character 2. And they're thinking, because their brains are going, really? I had that power. My behavior actually directly influenced my mother. I have that power. That's relationship.
I agree. And I'll tell you, young children can get this. Like this model, my kids are 11, 14, and almost 17, and they definitely get this. But younger children can grasp this concept because why? They've seen Inside Out, right? So they have some frame of reference of this idea. It's not exactly the same. I don't want to suggest it is, but they kind of get, like, I have different
It's similar. I wish that they had consulted me, because then they really would have gotten the 4 characters right, and I wouldn't have had to write a book, right? But it's true. No, it's absolutely true. Kids get it. But then to realize the power I have to influence you and your 4 characters. Wow, that is a mind opener. And if you look at even something like Harry Potter, you ask any kid who's read Harry Potter, who's the 1? Hermione, they'll tell you. Who's the 2? They'll tell you. Draco, right? Who's 3? The brothers, the twins, because they're always doing outrageous, ridiculous stuff. And who's the 4? The big guy with the beard. What's his name?
Dumbledore.
Yeah, they'll all tell you that. Yep. They know 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. And then they look at it in their other programs, and it's like, oh yeah, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Somebody did it with me earlier today on SpongeBob. SpongeBob has 1, 2, 3, 4. It's like, there we all are. 1,
They're
2, 3, 4. This is not hard, ladies and gentlemen.
It's universal. I think the hard
part is the brain huddle.
Yes. And remembering to call it. So the power of this model is understanding, you call it the anatomy of choice and the 4 characters that drive our life in the book. Understanding those 4 characters, the key is the choice. That it really gives you choice. It gives you agency over how you want to handle the next situation and the next and the next. It's such a gift, Dr. Jill. This model is such a gift.
Thank you. And it's not about me. And that's what I love. That's why for me, it's the hit, was because the TED Talk came in and somehow that ended up being about me. And I understand that because it was my story and my journey and what I experienced, and I brought people with me.
Yes.
But this one, this is just this. In fact, in there, as I ended, I give you the TED Talk. You have the power to choose moment by moment how and who you want to be. It's not about me anymore. It's about you. It's about all of us, and put that as a collective whole. And we have the power to heal this planet.
It's beautiful work.
Thank
Where
you.
can people find you online? What's the best website to go to?
drjilltaylor.com.
drjilltaylor.com.
drjilltaylor.com. And then Facebook, I have a Facebook presence. I think it's Dr. Jill B. Taylor's my guess. And I've been talking about this for sleep, for raging moms, for, you name it, it applies. So please, to me, this is truly a gift you give to yourself. And if you give it to yourself, you give it to all of us.
Oh, so good. Thank you so much for joining us. I want everyone to take a look at we'll link to the book in the show notes. Go give yourself the treat of this book. It is such a great read. It's very readable, despite being written by a brain scientist. You will love it. And I think you'll just get layers and layers of meaning out of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, I am still sort of tingling from this experience with Dr. Jill. I considered it such an absolute privilege to get to speak with her, to get to interview her, to have her on this show. She is someone whose words I will be thinking about for a very long time, and I hope you will be too. More importantly, even, I really hope you read her book. This book, Whole Brain Living, is like a playbook, a primer on how to leverage a brain huddle for yourself. Maybe it's something you'll want to do with your family. I've taken some clients through this work and they're off implementing it with their families, even with very young children who are able to grasp these concepts. So I'd love to hear from you after this episode to tell me what you thought of it, what you learned from it, what you're going to go do with it in your own life. Come play along. Join us in the Brilliant Balance Facebook group. That's a great place to post some comments and have a discussion about this. You can comment on Instagram posts at @cschoolnikki or at @brilliant_balance. And definitely make sure that you're in touch with all the content we're putting out by subscribing to the weekly. That's brilliant-balance.com/weekly. Once a week publication to your digital doorstep on Tuesday mornings with all the things that we have produced for you in the previous week. All right, that is all for today, my friends. Until next time, let's be brilliant.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.